Hello everyone and a warm welcome to the third episode of the Dadaxi. Very happy that you're here with me today again. So today I want to dive a little bit deeper into highly sensitive people as well as their relation to spirituality. And this will link also into just any kind of neurodiversity or anything that might be different with you from the rest of the world and what I have to say about that. Because to me, everything that makes us different is actually a superpower. And it's our path in life to understand that what maybe was uncomfortable for others when we were kids because they didn't know how to handle it doesn't make these things a burden. They are still a gift and a blessing once we understand and learn how to handle them. So my own story is that I was born a highly sensitive person. There are other ways you can become highly sensitive. For example, when you go through very severe trauma in your childhood. Again, this very severe can mean different things. Yeah. It can mean a very violent upbringing, but it can also mean a very passive-aggressive upbringing, yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to show on the outside for it to be brutal. So that's how a person can become highly sensitive. That's mostly also how a person can become bipolar. That's mostly also how a person can get borderline syndrome. To this day, and I want to repeat this until everybody gets it. These are not mental illnesses that one is born with. These are mental illnesses that are formed during childhood when the nervous system is not in a safe space. And science already kind of knows that. They know that these symptoms mostly occur in very stressed human beings that didn't have an upbringing where they ever felt safe, but still pharma industry is big, so they can make a lot of money with selling drugs that do not really help. All they do is they lessen the symptoms for now, but we don't know what they do in 30 years because nobody has taken them that long. And what I can see in people that take them is that they lose their gifts, they lose their connection to themselves. So, I do not want to take this away from anyone that gets help with medication. If it's the right path for you, you know what's best for you. But I would never suggest anyone taking antidepressants or anything because it's really dangerous. They can be really, really addictive. And I know people that struggle very, very hard to get off of them again. And if you are already in a fragile psychological state, you don't want to add addiction to that state, especially not to a very highly formulated drug. So, anyways, I was born in 1988, and I think Dr. Elaine Aron started to notice a pattern in her studies with kids and adults in the 90s, and that's when she started to really look into what we now call highly sensitive people. So when I was growing up, there didn't exist any book about this. There was no knowledge about this. Actually, when I was born, we were still, the wall in Berlin was still up when I was born, It fell in 1989. So it was a different world back then. I went into this already one podcast, some episodes ago, but they still thought that it's a very good idea to just let your baby cry it out on their own. Today we know that this is exactly stuff that makes your baby become a bipolar teenager or a borderline teenager. So you really don't want to let your baby cry it out on their own. They need you to regulate themselves. If you don't regulate them, or help them regulate themselves when they are a baby, they cannot regulate themselves when they grow older, and that's when they either get addicted or they get psychological illnesses or they get both. Okay, so I was highly sensitive. Like, that means for sure I do not remember a lot of when I was a baby, but I remember certain things, and I especially remember like more when I was a little older, that every time something happened to me, I seemed to have an overreaction for everybody else. To me, it was a super normal reaction. Like, I hurt my toe and I screamed because it hurt so much. Like, I felt so much pain. And everybody else was like, whoa, this reaction is way too strong compared to what you are experiencing right now. And that's really a tough one, like, and that's, I think, why I'm a little bit of a speaker for these things as well, because like, if you have a kid, or even if you treat yourself like that now because you were treated like that as a kid, please stop doing that. Like, we all are different. We do not sense the same things. So what maybe not be so painful for you can still be painful for another person. You are not in their body, so you don't know how it feels for them. And by getting invalidated for what I felt as a kid so much, that created like this huge hole inside of me. There was like this huge tear in my whole being, because there was my way of perceiving the things I perceived, like my physical senses, but also my emotions or my thoughts or my ideas and visions. And they all were super strong. It was like a superpower, and it still is. And to others, it was too much, and also never enough, because it was always too much different and not enough normal. And it's not like I grew up with people that really expressed that to me, It's not like I have a very, very lovely and very loving family, but they got stressed out because they didn't understand. Yeah, and that's because they were still in this setting that everybody is the same. And that's just the one thing I want to get rid of during my lifetime, is that we are all the same. We have the same bodies, yes, but that's like, and we breathe. We have to breathe and we have to drink water. So there are a lot of equalities, yes. But then there are so many, like, vast differences in our education, in how our parents were educated, in how much of the world we've seen, in how openly we looked at the world when we traveled it. Like, we are very, very different, each of us. And just because we look the same doesn't mean that we are the same or that we perceive the same. And as long as we believe or have this structure of there is the same, everybody that is a little bit different, and I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, everyone feels different. No one feels same, yet everyone wants to reach this feeling of sameness. So why can't we be the same in not being the same? Why can't I be like you because I am fully myself, and you can be like me because you are fully yourself? I mean, that's the world I would like to see, But then I'm stuck on this planet where we still have discussions about the color of skin, and I feel so devastated so many times during every day, where I'm like, oh my God, like, how could I ever reach what like I feel would be healthy for people when we are still discussing such superficial things? Like, the subconscious is everything. How we treat ourselves and how we as a society treat our members makes all the difference. I can give you some very strong examples if you want to, and I'm not protecting these people. But Hitler was like, he didn't get any respect from anybody, okay? And that's why he was seeking so much power. And I don't say this to like free him of guilt or anything, but just saying, And of course it was his decision to become like that. But all the influence that was around him, like, he was in very, very strong anti-Semitic circles. So most of his ideas weren't even his own. They were like like put into his brain by other people around him. So he was a puppet in his own way, but he was a puppet of his subconscious that really wanted the world to respect him. And then we have another example. Let's take Bernie Madoff as an example. So here we have this guy that wants to prove to his father-in-law that he can make a lot of money and that he deserves the wife that he wants to marry. And then from there it goes very southwards, and I could never understand how you could do that to people. I cried so hard when I watched that documentary because I felt so sorry and bad for the people that he hurt. But on the other hand, it was societal pressure. Nobody questioned what he did. Oh my God, he's making so much money. He's such a good guy. Until they see that he's not a good guy, But it was illogical from the beginning. What he did was illogical, but everybody wanted to believe in it because they want to believe in this story, You can be like the fool villain, and as long as I can look just past it and don't have to see it directly, I will still hype you. So what I'm trying to say here is that as long as we stay in this superficial thing, we will never get anywhere. And that's where being highly sensitive came in as a superpower for me, because I feel so much more than others, but it's not different than what the others feel. It's actually just stronger. Yeah? Everyone's sensitive. Some have more connection to their sensitivity than others. But what I feel and sense about this world was never different to the others. It was just stronger. I perceived it stronger. And that's when I realized that my spirituality is very strongly linked to me being highly sensitive. As in, spirituality to me was always a logical thing. It never did not exist in the way I perceived the world since I was born. I was always perceiving the subconscious levels. And I think every kid actually does. And every animal too. That's why we feel so related to them. And the only people that really cannot deal with animals are mostly people that are really afraid and scared of their own subconscious. You can actually observe that. It will prove to you. So this means everybody wants to actually be met in their subconscious. That's why a lot of people feel so connected to children or to animals. But then the subconscious is not necessarily something everybody can talk about that much because it's just a lack of words. It's not perceivable in a very good or strong way to most people. And that's where I perceive high sensitiveness as a superpower, because to me it's perceivable. And it's not in a way that I would just interpret people. I never do that, I once came across body language, studying body language when I was 14, and I didn't want to do it because it didn't feel right to me. I don't want to read you, because it feels like an intrusion. I for sure will see how I feel around a person, but that's only connected to myself. Anyways, if I work with people and they actually want me to feel them, then I am very, very good in that. Because I can tune into these fields. To me, they were always there. And that's also, I think, where I have this huge collide with modern day spirituality, because to me it was always inherent that everybody is a spiritual being as well. To me, when I talk about the chi, or the energy that flows through your meridians or the energy channels inside of your body, that's the same thing like blood flowing through the vessels in your physical body. It's the same thing. It's just on an energetical level and on a physical level. And I really struggle with this kind of spirituality that on one hand wants to improve all the time, in a sense of like this whole ascension story to me is, I don't know, it's just kind of weird. Like, for sure, I sense a difference in energy because the universe is accelerating, and we know that, like, this is science. Like, my spirituality is actually like based on what science found out, or it actually was like I believed that before, and then quantum mechanics and quantum physics came along and it got proven. The thing is just that it's not like necessarily applicable to our everyday life, and that's why it's still too far out there for people to grasp it. But my kind of spirituality is way more that we are a part of a universe that is always expanding and evolving. And that's what we do on this planet too. We are always expanding and evolving. And that's the biggest, I think, the biggest issue with going with that spirituality in the modern day and age is that we built a world where we have a very strong ego. Yeah, the more we have a society that made nature their slave instead of living in symbiosis with nature, the bigger their ego is. Yeah, that's just it's a mathematical thing. So we have this very big ego, and the ego just really loves things to stay the same, even if actually they are not very comfortable, or even if the heart feels that this is not the right thing or not the right place to stay, the ego will want to stay there because this place is safety. This place is familiar. Even if it's a very dark and rotten place, the ego will want to stay there. And that's the biggest border between a soul and really lived spirituality. That even if we change places a lot and we move around a lot, if we stay in the places inside, nothing will change, really. We will just replicate the same experience again and again. And that's simply not what the universe wants to do. The universe doesn't want to have the same experience again and again. These experiences are here to be fully lived and then to be moved onwards to other things. Because that's what the universe does, and we are just an expression of the universe. So I think that a lot of the issues with capitalism and with modern society is really that it's not concepted in a way that goes with the natural flow of the universe, which is, as I said, opening up, widening up, and always becoming more deep, more wide, more complex, but also more clear. And that's just like the whole system we have in place right now is going into the opposite direction. And that's why it feels so tense also on this planet right now. Because it's like the system wants to go into one way and the universe is going into another way. And we are part of the universe, so no way is the system succeeding in what it wants to do. But like when you feel like a tear inside of you, or you feel like there is a pull at the moment in the energy of the world or in the energy of life, it's because of that. And like it's very easy to be dragged into it, like with all the inflation and all the money issues and the war. But it really helps me to just stay connected to this. Like, as long as I stay close to my ego and close to not always being safe, but taking certain amounts of risks and doing things in a way that I might have not done them before, I am in the energy of the universe and I will steer into the right direction no matter what's happening around me. It's a very simple recipe. Yeah, you just stay close to your heart and you keep your ego in check. It's such a simple recipe, but as usual, the most simple things are the hardest to cook. To really taste good. Like, for example, I only eat pizza margherita, and my friends are always like, why do you only eat pizza margherita? And I'm like, yeah, but I really like it. And with the pizza margherita, you can really tell if it's a good pizza. With everything else, you get like your senses get distracted by the salami or whatever, and it can be a bad pizza with good salami and then the pizza is good. But with margherita, you don't have that. So yeah, it's oftentimes harder to like to make a really simple meal taste really good. I think it's harder than to make like a complicated meal taste good, simply because the senses at some point are overwhelmed. And this links in again to this whole spirituality thing. Because after I went through not being diagnosed as an artist, I also got diagnosed as a highly sensitive person. And I never officially got that before. All my therapists agreed, but so I didn't need to have a diagnosis for that. I knew that too. But through that diagnosis, I learned more how it really affected also some of my behavior that might seem autistic. And so I had to really sit down and look more into my own nervous system and its workings. Plus, I told that I'm like an awareness trainer. And it all comes with the same thing, that because I felt so strongly as a kid about certain things, and it was just seen as an overreaction. I didn't have the time and space to learn how to deal with these things, yeah? Because when you have a kid that's overreacting in your perception, and you help them regulate themselves by saying, it's okay that you feel that strongly, these feelings will pass, and I'm here for you. We will, you're not alone in this. And that's how they will learn to copy that behavior inside of themselves. So once you're not there anymore, they will be able to copy this. To be like, oh, okay, I'm overwhelmed, but that's okay. I can be overwhelmed. I have resources to take care of this because mom showed me how, or dad was there with me and he did it for me. So now I have a role model. I know how this works. And if you're like, oh, you're too much, then the child thinks, oh, I'm too much. So there is not this process of learning of, oh, it's okay to be overwhelmed, because then it's already not okay to be overwhelmed. So I am not okay. And then this can cause really big rips inside of people. So interestingly enough, I dissociated from lots of parts of me that were overwhelming, because I didn't know that it was okay to be overwhelmed and it would pass. And I became this kind of shadow of myself for some time. And the interesting thing is that this shadow was really looking for a lot of excitement on the outside. No matter if it was parties or drugs or whatever, travel, leaving the country, moving somewhere else, really always a lot of information, a lot of input. Wow. What is the universe all about? And I read all these books about quantum mechanics, and whatever came out that was linked to my being, about shamanism, about magic tattooing, about symbols. I bought it because I'm a big book person, and I collected these books and I read them, and I sucked all this information in, and it was so interesting, and I loved it, and it inspired me so much to become the artist I am today. And also I read a lot of Carl Gustav Jung and the Vedic writings, and a lot of books about Buddhism, about the church, and just so many things. And it was really actually kind of overwhelming myself all the time, because otherwise I was underwhelmed by the world. The world was so boring, so I was like, okay, I get all this inspiration, I get all this the world around me. And now that I like associated again with the parts of me that felt overwhelming, I cannot take in as much information as before. So kind of my soul was missing these overwhelming parts. So it overwhelmed itself constantly because that's who I am, you know? I feel a lot and I get overwhelmed by that. And I have my resources to be with that overwhelm and be okay again. And that's my mode of being. And when I'm not that, like when I'm my shadow, I will look for the overwhelm from somewhere. Because that's just how I'm supposed to be. And I really hope this is making sense, because to me, this is like, I have to laugh now because it's so ridiculous, you know? But simply like, if you're a shy person, don't fight that. Like, whoever told you that you shouldn't be shy, fuck them. Be shy, okay? And if you're kinky and somebody told you shouldn't be kinky, fuck them. Be kinky. And also, if you don't feel like being kinky, don't be kinky. You know, like, we are not the same. We don't have to like the same things. It's just important that if we understand I don't like that, look for the things that we like, because we have such a big world now, and there are so many beautiful things that we might not have uncovered for ourselves, also because they are considered a taboo. Like, you know, in this society, to stand there and say, I'm shy, that's like a weird thing. But we have to make it normal. Because it's okay to be shy, and it's okay to be an introvert and not wanting to talk to people at all. Like, I totally get you. Go there, you know. I'm not like that, but I'm also not that much of an extrovert all the time. So, you know, like, it's not about not being bipolar. It's not about not having ADHD. It's about embracing it fully and have the resources for yourself to be at peace with that. And then it's a spiritual gift. Because spirituality, in my sense, is always just to arrive more in the moment and to see that how fucking amazing it is to have a body and to be able to do all of these things. You know, like, to me, it's like a game, no? But it's a very serious game some days. But like, having this body and being able to do so many things with it, like, only on this table in front of me, I have tools that I could write a story with, or I have tools to produce music with, or I have tools to listen to music, and like all these things that are just in front of me, you know, arriving fully in the moment and understanding what a blessing life is. And in that also knowing that it's this part of my journey. And I was somewhere else before, and I will go somewhere else afterwards, because that's just what I know. That's the knowledge I was born with. And I know a lot of people that I meet here from somewhere else, just because I feel that. And I know that at some point this will be like also be proven by science, although maybe it won't be in this lifetime of mine or this avatar of mine. And that's what spirituality to me is all about. To be fully here now, knowing that I'm a spiritual being, having a physical experience and enjoying it. And being okay with being a kid, and being okay with being a teenager, and being okay and happy with being an adult, and being okay and happy with being an elderly person, and being okay and happy with dying. That's the main goal of spirituality in my eyes. And all of this, as you can see, is just, it ties in with having a good human experience. And all the spirituality, or like 95% of the spirituality that I see on the outside, is about escaping the human experience, is about becoming this ideal perfection of whatever angel image. And that's dissociation again. And again, it comes from dissociated people. And like, I don't mean that in a judgy way, but it's just very obvious to me, because again, it's like looking for something somewhere else instead of understanding that it's here right now. You know, like me pushing away all the overwhelm I had just to find new overwhelm. So I believe that these people are actually very spiritual. They're just looking into the wrong direction, or they're pushing their energy into like the direction that's like going somewhere instead of being more here. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm not like saying do it. But I really hope you learn that the same thing that I did, it's not going that way, like we came from there to be fully here and we will go there anyways. So just be here now and enjoy this. Because I think it's so weird now. I'm 35 now and I see the first wrinkles in my face and I really like it. I got a lot of white hair and I really like it because that means I'm a part of the universe. I age. That means my body changes. And one day it will become Earth. I mean, how cool is that? People are I want to leave a legacy. And I feel wow, we leave such a legacy by just giving our body over to Earth when we die. And then it becomes part of the story of the Earth. Every time we do that. And I think a lot of us have done this a lot of times already. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah, Earth is a really amazing place, I believe. But there is a lot of crazy things happening. But still I believe, or maybe I'm just naive, but I still believe that we can get somewhere when we really look at how we interact with ourselves, because that's where we find how we interact with others. And just how much of ourselves we allow to be. Because I believe the more we can just normalize talking about how we feel or how we are, the more we normalize that people really know themselves or have the chance to take the time to know themselves, because it's not an instant thing to do. And from that, a lot of healing can come. Because when we feel understood and when we feel seen, we don't necessarily take over other people's countries. And when we feel understood and we feel seen, we don't necessarily go to other people's countries and kill innocent people. It's that level. We can still discuss about political things and about what money can be made and all of these things, but in the end it's an emotional thing. For sure, maybe there comes the convenience with a big oil resource that was found somewhere, but it's still also you can only take so many people into this whole thing by emotions. You could not take them into the story for oil. Nobody would do that for oil. So even if that's the true reason, it's the subconscious emotion that people feel towards the whole story that's being told to them on the subconscious level. So that's where they act from. And that's where you get the motivation for all of this. And that's how you get the whole world involved. You know what I mean? So that's a very important thing, that as long as we only look on the superficial things, we do not look at what really motivates the masses. And again, I believe it's not really wanted from the system, not someone necessarily in particular, but the system, for us to really know ourselves. Because, we have to look at the roots of the system. The whole system came from wartime, came out of slavery. There is so much white privilege still in the system, maybe not necessarily in Switzerland, but also here we have racist police. But more in America and other countries, that we really have to put the system into the perspective of the universe, in the sense of the system should never be fixed. It should always continue to grow and to change. And what we currently do is just we add more and more and more. And that's not, as I said, the universe also clarifies in its evolution. And that's not what the system does. It actually gets more complicated. It gets less see-through. It gets way less understandable for everyday people. So the first thing, like if we want to align all the systems with the universal nature of things, would be to minimize them, to decomplicate them, to make them as easy as possible. But then again, for that, first we need to clean our subconscious. So I believe that the revolution that needs to take place is really not on the outside, it's on the inside. It's how we take care of ourselves, it's how we respect and take care of our loved ones. It's how we embrace everything that was gifted to us, including our path, and how much we love what was given to us in the way we can, you know. Maybe there's one day a year where you're happy to be yourself, but that's one day, that's good. And let's hopefully expand that, no? So yeah, this became a little bit political as well, but I wanted to make a podcast episode, I guess, about why I do things the way I do them. And it's simply because I don't see any other way. I don't, to me it's really the subconscious that needs a positive influence, and that's why I make my symbols, because they work on the subconscious. They work on the conscious as well, because you get this text file that explains everything, but there is a certain energy in these symbols and also in the rituals I do that just gets this very clarifying energy, and it goes to the subconscious, you know. That's also why my designs are very minimalistic, so to speak, or very clear, because again, here we are with the alignment of the universe, and there is chaos and order, and there is a dance of the two that in the end creates everything. So I believe maybe the war with myself that I experienced was the chaos, and now the peace that I found with myself is the order. And then there will be another chaos and another order, because that's simply how universes are created. So, yeah, I truly believe that if we want to change the world, we have to change how we interact with ourselves. And a very good and grounding way to do that is spirituality, when it's grounded and when it's anchored in awareness and meditation. And in the end, just a respect for everything that lives in a way that everyone can choose for themselves. Like me, for example, I eat meat, but I eat it in a particular way that feels good for me and that I can give thanks in. And I think in the end, it's all about that, that we can be okay with what we do. And we have congruence in ourselves and what we do. And yeah, I think that's actually the biggest part of spirituality, or actually just being a decent human being. And we all are finding that way of how am I doing myself in this world. And I believe it's a lifelong process. So wherever you are on that journey, I hope it's a good place and I hope you enjoy it. And if not, I really wish you the strength and the power to overcome your ego and find a place that's really more comfortable for your soul. And yeah, I really hope this episode made sense. I'm really tired this week, so I might have been a little bit all over the place. But anyways, I thank you very much for listening, and I wish you a lovely, lovely weekend ahead. Much love until next week. Bye bye.